It's time for one of the biggest encounters at the Tech Mahindra Global Chess League. We have Hikaru Nakamura from the American Gambits taking on Alireza Firouzja from the Triveni Continental Kings. Firouzja has been in good form in this tournament. He beat Magnus Carlsen, although he was in a worse position. But now it's time for Hikaru Nakamura. The icon board clash here, and this is going to be very exciting. 20 minutes with no increment, and off we go. Hikaru opens the game with 1 e4. Firouzja plays c5. Both of them have a smile on their face as the game begins. It's Sicilian time. Will there be open Sicilian? d4 here? No. Hikaru says it's the Moscow variation. Knight comes out to d7. Alireza always wants to play fighting chess. Now Hikaru thinking a bit and goes short castle. That's the move that he opts for. And Alireza asks a question to the bishop. Do you want to trade on d7 or do you want to go back? And Hikaru pulls his bishop back to e2. The knight comes out attacking this pawn. d3 is played. This is normal stuff, although it looks a bit passive, but later on you can try to unwind. Now a4 is the main move, but Hikaru surprises his opponent and everyone with knight d2, which is not the most common move. e6, f4, that was his idea. He wanted to push his pawn, but it does look a bit artificial. Bishop comes out to b7, and now Hikaru playing on the queen side with a4. He just wants a fresh position here, and that is what he has got. But Alireza is not phased. He's just making his moves quickly. He knows bishop comes out, he will castle. Bishop to f3 played. Maybe somewhere you are planning for this e5 break, although it's not really coming out. Queen c7 played by Firouzja. And now the knight comes to c3, attacking the pawn here on b5. Firouzja pushes and gains more space. Hikaru comes back. We have a very complex position with both sides having all the pawns on the board. And look at this move by Alireza. He wants to come via c6 to d4, and Hikaru plays his pawn to b3. He wants to develop his bishop on this long diagonal here. Knight comes out to c6. Bishop b2 is played. And you can see all the time players looking upwards because there is a big screen where they can follow the games of the rest of their teammates. Queen e1, this is a very interesting move that Firouzja has played with d5, and he long castles. He realizes that his king is safe here and he's happy to long castle. This is getting very exciting now. Queen f2 played, and Firouzja just tucks his bishop, tucks his king to the corner. Rook e1. No pieces have been traded, no pawns have been traded. 17 moves into the game. King a8. The king goes further to the corner of the board. And now king h1 played here. Both the players don't want to simplify. h5, preparing maybe the knight jump here on g4. And he takes the first trade in the game. ed and knight g3. This does drop the pawn on d4. On f4, he does take it. But Hikaru actually had a deep idea here. He brings his bishop back and offers a trade. He wants the f5 square for his knight where he can attack. Firouzja goes back and Hikaru comes in. Now this is hanging. This is hanging. Knight g4 threatening a mate in one. And if you take here, then hg4. And there's again a mate threat because of the rook. So queen g3 played. He trades the queens. The pawn structure is now mangled. You are a pawn down as well. Not a good position here for Hikaru. It's a lot of pressure. And Alireza plays bishop f6. He takes. If you take with the knight, then the g7 pawn hangs. So he takes with the pawn. It's now doubled pawns. But yes, they are. That's an extra pawn there. Knight. He plays his knight to f3. Maybe the knight goes to h4. Bishop c8, attacking the knight here, and maybe knight 3 h4 is the best move, but he goes knight e7 and takes, rook takes, and Alireza puts his bishop, kind of trapping the rook here. Knight h4. Idea is to take and take on f6, but knight e3 trades, rook takes, and rook e8. Fantastic play here by Firouzja, even though his structure is a bit bad. He's just showing that he understands the position very well, and now slowly starts to bring his king. Yes, king b7 in the position, and the knight does not have any good squares to go to. This is a very tough endgame for Hikaru. King g1 played by him. He has to be careful. In fact, it might very well be that the position is not possible to salvage here. Rook g8 attacking the pawn on g3. And he brings king f2 up the board. King c7. He's coming in. He's coming here to d6. Hikaru realizes that his position does not have any real possibilities. Black has this very powerful break that he can take at any given time. Knight comes here to d2. Maybe just playing against this, he has to be passive. And bishop g4 played. He comes knight here, coming to e3, perhaps looking at the f5 square. Alireza touches his rook, has to move it, goes rook g5. An interesting move, keeps an eye on the d5 pawn. Knight e3 played. The bishop comes back, and Hikaru has 5 minutes 46 seconds. Alireza has 6 minutes. He thinks for 2.5 minutes, now down to 3 on the clock. King comes up. Rook h4 stopping the king invasion from d4 to c3. But now the bishop blocks it. The king trying to rush to the queen side to save it. f5 played. This is amazing play here by Firouzja. Is going for f4. Rook h1 played. Now you can go f4. He pushes f4. He's undoubling the pawns. Knight takes bishop. And you can see Hikaru very unhappy with his position. Rook takes, check, and the king enters. Now it's a pure rook endgame. The pawns have been equalized, but it is far from equal here. Takes on g3, takes with a check, king c3, and Hikaru now in a defensive position. 1 minute 35 seconds. Alireza pushes his pawn. If you take here, he wants to take the pawn on c2. So king d1 played by Hikaru here. And how does Alireza make progress? He goes f4. If you take here, I can take on g2. So he pushes his a pawn. And now Firouzja plays d4. He's just putting his opponent in some sort of a zugzwang. He has no moves left. Rook e2, and now finishes it off with a beautiful move. f3, pawn takes pawn, and now calculating it right till the very end. Check here, and you know that Firouzja knows that it's a win. King takes, f4 and c4. Whatever you take with, the pawn is queening. Hikaru offers his hand in resignation and leaves the playing hall. Alireza Firouzja is in tremendous form here. In fact, in this game, he dominated it right from the start. What amazing play by this youngster. He's just showing how good he is, and there was no chance for Hikaru.